Grover walked over to the boar and jumped onto its back. Already the boar was starting to make some headway through the drift. Once it broke free, there'd be no stopping it. Grover took out his pipes and started playing a snappy tune, and he tossed an apple in front of the boar. The apple floated and spun right above the boar's nose, and the boar went nuts, straining to get at it. "Automatic steering," Dahlia murmured. "Great." She trudged over and jumped on behind Grover, which still left plenty of room for the rest of us. Zoe and Bianca walked towards the boar. "Wait a second," I said. "Do you know what Grover's talking about, this wild blessing?" "Of course," Zoe said. "Do you not feel it in the wind? It was so strong, I never thought I'd sense that presence again." "What presence?" She stared at me like I was an idiot. "The Lord of the Wild, of course. Just for a moment, in the arrival of the boar, I felt the presence of Pan." Chapter 13. We visit the junkyard of the gods. We rode the boar until sunset, which is about as much as my back end could take. Imagine riding a giant steel brush over a bed of gravel all day. That's about how comfortable boar riding was. I have no idea how many miles we covered, but the mountains faded into the distance and were replaced by miles of flat, dry land. The grass and scrub brush got sparser until we were galloping. Do boars gallop? Across the desert. As night fell, the boar came to a stop at a creek bed and snorted. He started drinking the muddy water, then ripped into a saguaro cactus, ripped it right out of the ground, and chewed it, needles and all. "This is as far as we go," Grover said. "We need to get off while he's eating." Nobody needed convincing. We slipped off the boar's back while he was busy ripping up another cacti. Then we waded away as best as we could with our saddle sores. After its third cactus and another drink of muddy water, the boar squealed and belched, then whirled around and galloped back towards the east. "I guess he likes the mountains better." "I can't blame it," Talia said. "Look." Ahead of us was a 2-lane road half covered with sand. On one side of the road was a cluster of buildings too small to be a town. There was a boarded-up house, a taco shop that looked like it hadn't been opened since before Zoe Nightshade was born, and a white stucco post office with a sign that said Gilliclaw, Arizona, hanging crooked above the door. Before that was a range of hills, but then I noticed they weren't regular hills. The countryside was way too flat for that. The hills were enormous mounds of old cars, appliances, and other scrap metal. It was a junkyard that seemed to go on forever. "Whoa," I said. "Something tells me that we're going to need to find a car rental here," Dahlia said. She looked over at Grover. "I don't suppose you got another wild boar up your sleeve?" Grover was sniffing the wind, looking nervous. He fished out his acorns and threw them into the sand, then played his pipes. They rearranged themselves in a pattern that made no sense to me, but Grover looked concerned. "That's us," he said. "Those 5 nuts there." "Which one is me?" I asked. "The little deformed one," Zoe suggested. "Oh, shut up." "The cluster right there," Grover said, pointing to the left. "That's trouble." "A monster?" Tally asked. Grover looked uneasily. "I don't smell anything, which doesn't make sense, but the acorns don't lie. Our next challenge—" He pointed straight ahead towards the junkyard. With the sunlight almost gone now, the hills of metal looked like something on an alien planet. We decided to camp for the night and try the junkyard in the morning. None of us wanted to go dumpster diving in the dark. Zoe and Bianca produced 5 sleeping bags and foam mattresses out of their backpacks. I don't know how they did it because the packs were tiny, but they must have been enchanted to hold so much stuff. I noticed their bows and quivers were also magic. I had never really thought about it, but when the hunters needed them, they just appeared slung over their backs, and when they didn't, they were gone. The night got chilly fast, so Grover and I collected old boards from the ruined house, and Thalia zapped them with an electric shock to start a campfire. Pretty soon we're about as comfy as you can get in a rundown ghost town in the middle of nowhere. "The stars are out," Zoe said. She was right. There were millions of them, with no city lights to turn the sky orange. "Amazing," Bianca said. "I've never really actually seen the Milky Way." "That is nothing," Zoe said. "In the old days, there were more, with constellations having disappeared because of the human light pollution." "You talk like you're not human," I said. Zoe raised an eyebrow. "I am a hunter. I care what happens to the wild places of the world. Can the same be said from thee?" "From you," Dahlia corrected. "Not thee." "Because of you form the beginning of a sentence,"